Well, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. This afternoon, I'm going to be reading 10 Days of Christmas Miracle Stories to comfort us on this holiday. The Christmas season brings happiness, family, and even miracles. This is a different Christmas stories from what I read the other night. So here we go. And those who are watching on TikTok, this is only seem I can keep it going without interrupting, and then of course my YouTube channel. Right now I can't see it. So the season, Christmas season brings happiness to the family, even miracles. As some of us prepare for Christmas with friends and family, let's not forget the reason for season. We compile some of our favorite real life Christmas miracles, each of them a reminder that amazing things can happen during this time of year, no matter the circumstance. Here's the first one: the Christmas gift that kept giving. When did the Christmas basket setting on our front porch come from? Well, I just returned from the bank where I withdraw just enough cash to get us through the holidays. Life was struggling, raising two teenagers as a single mother while working two part time jobs and taking college courses at nighttime. I was exhausted. The light at the end of the tunnel sometimes seems very dim indeed. I looked for a card or a note with that basket filled with brim with all sorts of holiday food stuff. There was none. Had someone entered my name into a Salvation Army charity? The timing couldn't have been better. It would go long way in tiding us over until my next paycheck. At that very moment, I felt a ripple of guilt. Wasn't there someone else out there who needs it more? Yes, my kids and I were struggling, but my grandparents and Aunt Shirley, who was deaf, really surely on their Social Security and disability checks, sometimes pooling their resources to get by. At least I could always pick up extra hours at work. And when I finished my degree, things would improve a lot. My consensus won the debate. I drove to Grandma and Grandpa's little two-room house just across the street from my Aunt Shirley. Grandpa opened the door and said, "Merry Christmas." "Grandma," I said. Grandma was thrilled. "Oh, thank you. Connie will be able to have such nicer dinner this Saturday, Sunday. This will really help us our checks come until our checks come. But what about you?" "We'll be fine," I said. After a short visit, I excused myself. "I still have lots of chores, so I should head back." On the way home, thinking about Grandma's smile, I knew the basket had gone to the right place. But like Grandma said, what about us? I still worry about how I could afford to make Christmas special for my kids. Then I saw it on the front of my house in the same spot as before. Identical Christmas basket, every bit as lovely as the first. There you go. There's that Christmas spirit. Now, Christmas Eve, coincidence save a life? A Christmas Eve coincidence save a life. I missed my friend's party for nothing, or so I thought. I made it to my friend Jesse's Christmas party minutes before midnight. Just as everyone was leaving the house, just my luck, too late. I spent my entire night stuck at the hospital where I worked as a nurse. All thanks to a little voice inside, take the candy shift. It's it had said over and over again. Candy was a new nurse on the staff, a single mom. She asked me to cover for her Christmas Eve so she could spend the time with her little girl. I felt bad for Candy. I really did. But every Christmas Eve, I went to Jessie's house. Her party was the highlight of my holiday season. There was a gift exchange, carols, and sugar cookies as far as the eye I could see. I told Candy I couldn't help her out afterwards through that little voice nudged me until I gave in. I figure God had something special reason for me to be at that hospital that evening. As I turned out, he didn't. It was the worst night ever. Two code blues, no free ICU beds, and just enchanted patients. The only thing that kept me going was the thought of stopping by Jessie's after my shift. I've never stayed at her parties past 10 o'clock, but maybe there'll be some sugar cookies and few carols left to sing by the time I got there. Instant, people were getting back into their cars. Why didn't I even bother to come this late? Suddenly, a scream pierced the night. Help! I looked up. Jessie's elderly next door neighbor was standing on the porch waving his arms. Help! He yelled. My wife is dying. I need a doctor. I rushed to him. I'm a nurse, I said. What's going on? He led me inside. His wife was laying unresponsive on the living room floor. Cold, clammy to the touch, I recognized the problem at once. Insulin shot. She had his medicine, but I have no clue how to use it. Her husband said, holding up in the injection. I crouched down beside the woman, administering the medicine. With minutes, her color returned. Her skin became warm and dry. The ambulance arrived just after the clock struck 12, Christmas morning. I finally made it to Jessie's, explained what happened. Good thing you were here so late, she said. You deserve a cookie. That's a good story. All right, next story. Let's see here. That was the basket. Okay, my sister's last Christmas gift. My sister's last Christmas gift. The night my sister died, I had the strangest dream ever. What did it mean? The sales clerk removed the pair of chandelier earrings from the glass case and dropped them in my waiting hands. They felt real, but I still had trouble believing it. Thin, hand-forged hoops and dangling dedicated chains, and all shimmering gold. I was mesmerized. The time seemed to stop. The department store clatter fade into the background. Interrupted, I held one up to my ear and looked in the mirror. A terrified Christmas gift. The clerk said cheerily, for your mom, maybe. The spell was broken. The crowd clustered by the shoes and handbags grew louder again. Out of the corner of my eyes, I saw my mother walking over from the perfume counter. They're not for anybody. I remember to the clerk. How could I explain to her when I couldn't explain to it myself? I hadn't told anybody about the dream, not even my mother. It was the strangest dream I ever had, the strangest, most terrible night. 1 month ago, close to midnight, I just returned home from a party when the phone rang. My mom was on the other end of the line, breathless, panicking. I held the receiver close to my ears, studying to make out her words. "It's your sister," she said. "She had brain aneurysm." "I'm on my way," I said, reaching for my keys. It was snowing, and the hospital was more than 2 hours away. "But I haven't seen her. There's no point risking the drive at this hour. My mother said the doctor said she's not going to wake up coming in the morning." I sat on the edge of my bed long after we hanged up, desperate for sleep but scared of waking to a world without Jan. She was only 43. Never again would I hear her voice or sit at the kitchen table eating home baked treats from her little cookie tin. I crawled underneath my comforter. I wanted to talk to my sister again, but I wouldn't get to the chance. Instead, I spoke into the darkness. "Forgive me, Jan. If I ever hurt you, I love you dearly." Sleep in fits and starts, one odd image breaking into my senses. A human ear shaking, vibrating almost violently. The ear was pierced, and dangling from it was the beautiful gold earring, smooth, perfectly round hoops, and fine, tightly linked chains. Was this Jan's way of letting me know she had heard me? The thought was confusing, as it was comforting. Jan died 5 days later, never waking up. In those hard days that follow, it was the vision, strange as it was, that I held on to. I played the dream over and over in my head, the shaking ear and dangling gold earrings that adorn. Exactly like the pair of earrings the sales clerk had put in my hand. What did that mean? Finding things, my mother said, joining me by the jewelry counter. The earrings, I said, left them up so she could get a better look. I had a dream about them the night of Jan. Mom gasped and covered her face with her hands. She was so upset. I put my arms around her. "I'm sorry," I began to say. Judith, you didn't understand," my mother said. "I have those earrings at home. Jan bought them to give you for Christmas." There you go. Let's go to another Christmas story. Let's see here. Two Christmas miracles. A pair of Miracle Christmas rescue. A sinking ship, a girl who fell through the ice. Was there a divine connection? I come from a family of rescuers. My two sons are officers in the military, one in the Army and the other was the United States Coast Guard. They came to aid of those who in need every day. You couldn't say it in their DNA. My dad was a lifer. He served first in the Navy during World War II in the Coast Guard, where he spent the remainder of his military career conducting dangerous air search and rescue missions for the last mariner. But the most important rescue mission was one that my family more than 60 years later, still calls a miracle. It happened December of 1954. A week before Christmas, I was 5 years old. My sister, Joanne, was 8, and my brother, Jim, was 2. Our home was full of holiday mode. The tall fir tree was trimmed in perfection. The aroma of baking filled the house. Preparation for our annual Italian Christmas Eve tradition, and the feast of the 7 fishes was underway. It would be our first Christmas in our new home in Canada. Excitement was in the air. A few months earlier, Dad had been transferred to Massachusetts to the United States Naval Base in Argentina, a town off the southern coast of Newfoundland. He worked for days on the base. We kids were always excited of his arrival home. We live a ferry ride away from the base in a 2-story box white house in the fishing village of Palenska. Pleska? Something's hard to say. It was quite a departure from the world we are accustomed to. Cold, gray, barren. The winter were brutal, even by New England standards. My mom assured us that all was well and that we were on a special adventure. She managed to make our little house feel warm and welcome, even for the other military families too. Now, Christmas, though, Dad was on duty. We wasn't sure he'd make home in time to celebrate with us. My dad never talked about his mission in front of us. Maybe he didn't want to frighten us. He also hydraulic special in aerial navigation, often flying in the worst conditions. Even as kids, we know his work was dangerous, especially in the winter months. Mom was good at hiding her concerns. Snow fell 3 days before Christmas, covering the barren ground with a lovely white carpet. The temperature was just cold enough to freeze. All the nearby ponds, schools had let out early that day. Joanne was home by noon. She told Mom that all her friends from school were going ice skating. She wished she had some skates, so she couldn't join them. At those words, Mom pulled up a present from under the tree and handed it to my sister as an early Christmas gift. Skates, Joanne wasted no time. Can I go skating now? She asked. Exactly, yes, Mom said. But be careful. Be home by supper. The bundle in her heavy winter jacket, hat, mittens, Joanne flew out the door. She headed towards the popular skating pond. Close by were her friends, had already gathered and spent the afternoon. It was a perfect day for skating, chilly and clear. The sun reflected off the ice like diamonds. Joanne worked hard to steady herself on the skates undoubtedly. By her multiple tremble, she finally made it from one side of the pond to the other. She was having so much fun mastering her new skates that she lost track of time, not realizing that all her friends have gone home. It was getting dark, and Joanne knew she had better head back fast as she could, but in trouble. She reached the remote part of the pond, not noticing the fractures in the ice until it was too late. Then the ice giving away, Joanne's tiny little feet slid out of underneath of her and plunged into the water. Surrounded by ice, she had nothing to grab on, Help, she screamed, her mouth filled with water. Again, she tried calling out. It was no use. The pond was deserted. Pure panic set in as the weight of her skates pulled her deeper and deeper, her body trembling, uncontrollably freezing water seeping into the heavy coat and pore of her skin. And then she was gone. Joanne doesn't recall how long she was underwater, but suddenly she felt something pulling her out of the icy deep. As she would later describe, a great big hand grabbed at the back of my coat. The next thing Joanne knew, she was sitting on the ground by the road that led back home. She was still wearing her skates, but her boots stood neatly beside her as if they'd been carefully placed there. She hurriedly changed into them, scarcely able to comprehend what had just happened. Her jacket was dry as a bone, so her ice skates, had she imagined falling into the water? Her mittens told the truth, though, as the icy pond water dipped from them. The dark walk home would have been threatened any other time, but that night it was as if a warm southern guiding Joanne. Mom questioned Joanne as she came into the door, more grateful than the cross. Where on earth have you been? She said. Sorry, Mom, lost track of time, Joanne said. She took off her jacket and scrambled to the dinner table, and even everything were fine. She was torn between sharing her near drowning and rescue. Keep quiet. What if no one believed her? The next 2 days passed by in blur of the holiday activities. The long-awaited Christmas Eve celebration finally arrived. We are all bundled for nerves that afternoon, not knowing if Dad would walk through that door. As we kept vigil by the window, we had one eye on the lookout for him, and the other one on the gifts. Round the clock, around 5 o'clock, we got the best gift of all. Dad walked through the door, accompanied by 2 members of his crew, who would been alone that night. Dad not insist them joining. We gathered around the table as Mom served each of the 7 courses. Dad beamed clearly happy to be home with his family. After dinner, we settled in the living room. Joanne and I sat on Dad's lap, and he began to tell us an extraordinary story. A couple of days ago, he said, we were called to rescue a crew of Russian ship that was taking on water in the middle of the ocean. The room drew a harsh hush. We rarely ever heard him say more than a few sentences about the duties. We were fascinated. Their ship was 4 hours north of us, he said, and it was storming something fierce. We knew the vessel was sinking, and we had that time was the essence. By the time our plane got to the general vicinity, though, a heavy fog had settled over the sea, making it impossible for us to see anything. The plane's fuel was getting low, and Dad knew that if they didn't see the sailors soon, they'll have to go back and risk it being in trouble too. We have turned around, the pilot told Dad with some urgency. We're their only hope, Dad said. Let's give it a few more minutes. 5 minutes more, the pilot said, but then we will have no chance to turn back. Dad paused his story just as we were about to turn back. He said, I asked the Lord to please help us find the sailors. In the moment of was as a certain were being suddenly drawn back, the fog lifted. We could see several men on the ship's bow waving the flags. The pilot flew the plane overhead and lowered the harness. As each man ascended to the plane, I reached down and pulled him to safety. Just as the last man climbed aboard, the vessel sank. I stared at Dad's strong hands, picturing him reaching out for those men, bringing them safety, the strength, and courage. It must have been took my breath away. Just as then, Joanne said in a soft, almost inaudible voice, I had a miracle too, Daddy. She told the room how another pair of powerful hands, just like Dad, had plucked her from those icy waters. Huge hugs and kisses followed. Was there a connection between Dad's rescue and those sailors that night? In the rescue of his own little girl, perhaps? We'll never know for sure, but all those years later, when I sit and to pray my sons expire into service by the grandfather, I'm not afraid, for I know that whatever they face, they are never really alone, protect always by their father's hand. There's a good one. All right, let me see if we find a special delivery. There we go. Mysterious Ways, a special delivery. On the joyous Christmas of 2014, she passed on a DVD of her late husband's favorite show, but Christmas Miracle placed them in her hands after all. I flipped through Christmas catalog. I needed a gift for a neighbor who had been exceptionally kind and helpful after the chief passed away. That what everyone called Cliff, my firefighter husband, this would be my first Christmas without him. I wasn't looking forward to it. The catalog has had everything clothing, personalized, associated, books, music. I finally settled on a sweatshirt. Something my neighbor could use this weekend. This, this weekend. Winter. I was about to place the order when my eyes landed on a mustache man in gray bowler hat staring back at me from the cover of 6-volume box set of DVDs. Hugo Parat. I know what it is. My breath caught how the chief had loved this show. He loved turning to PBS to watch the latest Manning mysteries. Only the detective can be solved. Poirot. We watched together, even though I mostly watched the chief watch the slow show. The suspense kept him on the edge of his seat. A sigh and order the sweatshirt for my neighbor. A few days before Christmas, the box arrived. I checked the pink packaging slip. One sweatshirt in one size I ordered. I opened the box to double check the item itself before wrapping it. I poked through the packaging peanuts. What? No sweatshirt, I thought. They sent the wrong order. Look more carefully. Maybe they didn't. Well, they got the detective series was laid out. The complete set. How could this be? The customer service was surprised as I was. Keep the DVD. The woman said, promising to rush the sweatshirt. Apologize for the mistake. Mistake? Not as far as I'm concerned. I'll be spending a little Christmas with the chief after all. There you go. There's that one. The Star That Saved Christmas. The Star That Saved Christmas. Every gift under their tree had been ransacked. Could I find the thief before Christmas morning? I'm a CSI, a crime scene investigator. For Los Angeles County, in its 24-hour days, 365 a year, even on Christmas Eve, I went to bed that night hoping to sleep until morning when my 3 daughters would rush in, giggling impatient to open their gifts. But at midnight, the phone rang. "We need you at the crime scene," the dispatch said. There had been a home burglarized in a poor area of the city. "It can't wait until the morning," the deputy at the scene told me when I called for details. "You'll understand when you get here." So I drove to the location. The deputy met me at the door, trying to be quiet. "The kids are sleeping," he said, leading me inside. A man and a woman were holding each other in the dim lit hallway, their eyes red from crying. I was walking into the living room. Now I understood. Lying on the side was a skinny Christmas tree. Nothing but carpet where Christmas presents should be kept. "We saved all year of those gifts," the man said to me. "If there's anything you can do." Determined, I tested everything in the house for fingerprints. There was no chance of solving the case without them. By tomorrow, the stolen goods would be history. But the chief had been through. Everything had been wiped. "I'm sorry," I said to the couple as dismay, "but what could I do?" I head for the door. Suddenly, a golden glint shine right into my eyes, too bright to ignore. "What's that?" I wonder. I swing the door out of the way, and behind it on the floor was gold star tree toppers. But it wouldn't have rolled out of sight. Maybe the burglar had touched. I dusted and developed the most complete full fingerprint I've ever seen. At the station, I ran against all records, identified the suspect lived around the corner from the victims. I called the deputy with information. Then they drove back over to the family's home. I pulled up at the same time the deputy did. The suspect was cuffed in the back of the police car. The deputy grinned and popped the trunk full of stolen gifts. "We got our man," he said. "Yes, we did, but not without a little help from a star behind the door in the dim light that shined just for me." Well, that's pretty cool. Let's see here. Christmas Miracle for Kids. Let's read this one. The Christmas Miracle for Kids. Let's get to it. A Christmas, Mysterious Ways. Merry Christmas to all. 6 kids for only 40 gifts. It seems like only Santa could help. Every December, our Candlewood Lions Club throw a Christmas party at the local firehouse for special needs kids. Children of Green Chimney, a resident school. It's a blast. I dress like an elf and help Santa pass out presents to the kids. There are also magician, a lunch buffet, even a tour of our firehouse. But driving there last year, I was in a panic. We had 40 presents to give, enough for the children. We usually expect Not enough for the 60 we just heard would be coming. Too bad to the real Santa Claus wasn't around. Too late to buy more, I thought. The kids will be here soon. Or some of those were the only gifts they received all season. Lord, what we're supposed to do now? Deject my husband and I parked the car and walked up the hill to the firehouse. Another man got out of his car at the same time and walked alongside me. When we got to the front door, he looked confused. Isn't the vote here today? He asked us. I know there was a special referendum up for a vote, but it wasn't being held here? Not at this firehouse. We have a Christmas party today. I answered. The man shook his head. I don't know why I thought it was here. He said he looked at us. If you were here for a party, why the long faces? I told him our poor a problem, even if I was a little bit too worried. Chit chat. How could we send a child home without a present? How many toys you need? The man asked. I may be able to help. How? But with minutes to spare before the children arrived, the man burst through the door, his arms overflowing bags of toys. Hurriedly, we piled them on the table and covered them with tablecloth, waiting the moment when Santa would reveal the gifts. The children were ecstatic. One girl picked an easy bake oven and something she wanted for years. This the best Christmas ever rang through the room. We need a Santa Claus. We were the scent a Major Tim Quilly of the local Marine Toys for Tots program, who had already collected all presents we need to give to the kids an unforgettable Christmas. Hey Cody, how you doing? So there you go. I'll find some more. And thanks for coming. I appreciate it. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Bye now.